Hello, welcome back to my channel. And this time I want to discuss the unfortunate truth of how some people that aren't able to fit into the 9 to 5 job, and how some aren't able to fit into entrepreneur paths either. And especially when you have a neurodivergent disorder like autism and stuff, and ADHD. And unfortunately, our society pushes you into two paths in order to make income. You either work for someone else at a 9 to 5 job, or you build your own business. And it's like work a job. It's pretty much either work a job you hate or try to create something that you can tolerate, at least. Not necessarily like. But unfortunately, yeah, that's the way they have with the income. And then there's this false binary, like the 9 to 5 is so evil, and that entrepreneurship is heaven. Let me tell you, it's not. Entrepreneurship takes a lot of research, and they both have their own risks in their own kind of way. With the 9 to 5, the risk of working for someone else is that if they don't like you, they get rid of you. We all are familiar with the term at-will employment, right? Where they pretty much can get rid of you if they don't like you. And that's the honest truth. And yes, I know that ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, people are able to have a little more flexibility before being given the boot. But sometimes corporations will find a sneaky approach where the employee, they can say they're insubordinate, not following directions. We warn them to cover their behind. But yes, and that's the risk of working a 9 to 5. However, entrepreneurship is not much safer, because you have to think of selling a product, and if you don't have any customers and you're not reaching out to people who want the product, that's also dangerous, because then you're spending money what people don't want or need, and you can go bankrupt with your business. So that's another thing to look at. So yeah, both can fail in their own kind of way. And then now I want to discuss about people also having different cognitive styles. For instance, the reflectivity versus impulsivity. There are some people who like to reflect, and they like to think and take analysis of what they really want in life. And then there's the impulsive kind of people who take speed over accuracy at any point. And yeah, those in and both of them kind of require both kind of environments, the 9 to 5 or entrepreneurship, because that's expected. You know, you're building a business for others who want your product, and it could really, mess a lot of things up. It can really make you go crazy or make you do very little. And then there's also the convergent versus divergent thinkers. The ones who want to find have to have a correct solution all the time, and they stick to their particular idea the whole entire time. And then there are the divergent employees or entrepreneurs who look for multiple ways of correctness. It's like, I don't know if convergent would necessarily mean they're stubborn and divergent means they're flexible, but that's sort of what I kind of see what it means. And then there's also the visual and verbal kind of employees that learn visually and verbally. With YouTube, for instance, if you want to do something for YouTube, you are probably better off trying to be a visual learner, because unfortunately attention spans have gone down the hill. And I think that's kind of the reason a lot of people, there were studies done that people are actually going to YouTube over Netflix, over Hulu, over TikTok, over anything. And it's not just because it's not just because of the business and, people aren't necessarily looking up to celebrities anymore. Yes, that's part of the case. But also, with the attention spans, I think also with like ADHD, they're also acknowledging that people can't always sit still with a movie. And that's where YouTube comes in, because sometimes they just look for a clip of their favorite movie. They could just, scroll through the internet and try to see their favorite movie. I mean, you could go on YouTube and see anything you want. And that's what, that's the main kicker about it. You put in, whatever your favorite clip is of whichever movie you like. If you like The Matrix, if you want to see the scene where the blue pill and the red pill, if you want to see the, the Dark Knight and see the party scene when the Joker clashes into the party. I mean, without necessarily watching the whole movie. And a lot of people have been trying to, especially with entrepreneurs and stuff, they've been trying to build their business so they can't really sit still and watch a 2-hour movie the whole entire time. But they can at least see clips of their favorite movies, which may only take 5 minutes, It's like on the go. It's kind of like a drive-through, in the old way where, people would go to McDonald's just to get a quick meal, even if it wasn't particularly healthy. It's kind of like that. And, I think it's because our attention spans have also gone down a lot because our world has become a lot more competitive. Whether it's you starting a business on YouTube, starting a business, a physical business, whether working a 9 to 5. And, we also, like I said, there's so many people. And before, with all those, oh, excuse me. With all those options and all those recording, like before, we couldn't even dream of going live and viral on YouTube or getting our voice out there on a TV screen. We were only able to see TV through movies in Hollywood because those were the only platforms. But now we have more platforms, so more people are talking. And we also see clips of what we want to see, whether it's wellness, whether it's family, whether it's escaping a 9 to 5, whether it's etc., whether it's cooking, whether it's trying to beat a level on a video game, there's all this information out there where you could just go on YouTube and see all that. So it's like YouTube provides a lot. And what's interesting is that one of the other biggest apps is ChatGPT, and I think AI could have helped also with attention spans, because like ChatGPT, you program it in, it can save you several hours of reading. It could make a 2-hour long article, reading it for 2 hours, feel like only 15 minutes, shall we say. I don't know the whole accurate, but the point is ChatGPT has also, and that's because our attention spans also, we don't want to go through number of hours of research. If we see something on Instagram, or TikTok or any of that, we can ask ChatGPT to break it down. And yeah, I think also, unfortunately, sites like ChatGPT doesn't always give you accurate information. So you got to be careful. And it's not always the human-like. It's not always consistent. If you want to write a story, it doesn't always write in the most consistent fashions. So humans still do need to work on their own terms. But yeah, our attention spans have also probably shrunk because of things like ChatGPT to some degree. As much as ChatGPT can be fun and break down everything, and don't get me wrong, it's great that it answers a lot of the questions, and in basic questions, and it can write stories. But there's always going to be flaws with it, But yeah, visual versus verbal, because I think going back to the point of visual versus verbal was mainly that people don't necessarily have the attention spans to just hear everything out anymore. So, yeah, there's that. And then additionally, we have whole list versus serialist. And what I see is, like, what that means is a holist can see a whole picture, while serialist is kind of step by step. So, and then, yeah, that's the part of that. And also, people may no longer have an interest in competition, whether it's a promotion, whether it's, the capability of selling, because as an entrepreneur, you need to have very, very good social skills. And don't get me wrong, there are some neurodivergents that can definitely have good social skills, but there are some that do struggle out there with that, and which is, unfortunately, our society tries to have this one size fits all. We unfortunately require productivity in order to be a success. So, yeah, there's a lot of that going on in our world. And then also when people get burned out with all this, people will start to say that they're lazy, and then they start to become trapped because no one is really paying attention. We kind of live in an apathetic world because a lot of people value productivity over well-being, which I think is wrong, because, like I said, it can lead to burnout. It could even, hate to say it, it sometimes can even question why people are wanting to be alive anymore. It's as harsh as it is it's put a lot on people. This put a lot of toll on people because they're being shamed, because they're being forced to keep up with the times. And unfortunately, the comparison culture has really taken its toll on that. And I think that's one of the reasons it really does. And then, yeah. Well, here's the main thing. Maybe the person isn't necessarily bad at life, but life is only giving two templates. And hopefully, there's a way where we can help people with their well-being that comes before productivity. Because if you're not in the right state of mind, let me tell you, you will never help anybody. Because how can you get someone who's starting to get a mental illness, is starting to be drained out? How can you get them to work again? And like I said, AI can't do all the work for you, because even AI isn't all that, accurate. Yes, it doesn't actually need sleep. It's on the go with you 24/7. It doesn't need coffee breaks. But we still need the humans in order for even the AI to work. That's my take on this. Let me know if you have anything in the comments. Hope you like, and you have a great day. All right, bye.